I had no idea that the NOH8 campaign was still ongoing.
Right.
Are you?
6 months ago, I recorded a video about the iconic NOH8 campaign. I never published it because it was not good, except for one segment which involved my friend Mark, who, like me, works in marketing. So for Pride Month, we thought it would be interesting to publish our conversation, and I'll interject here and there to add some context that the original video was providing. Make sure to give this video a like, it really helps with the algorithm.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on the channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how vividly do you remember the NOH8 campaign?
Ooh, quite vividly, I would say. I mean, let's take it back. I was a queer 11-year-old boy, having absolutely zero understanding of politics, literally anything going on.
Yeah.
What I did understand was when you see somebody putting a piece of duct tape and having no hate plastered everywhere. So, you know, as a young queer person, I remember seeing this, and it was a moment in time. It left a very significant impression on myself, and it kind of illuminated to me that there was support. You know, especially for somebody that was very much coming into his own at that time. It was a reminder that the world does accept and is aware of these types of things. But it was, you know, as I'm sure we'll discuss, a very interesting moment and period of the way that they did it, the way that it was performed. And so I remember pretty well.
To understand this campaign, we must go back to 2009, shortly after Obama's inauguration. A new era of social justice was beginning, but it was also a time of reality TV and economic struggle. Same-sex marriage was a distant aspiration in 2009. It was only in 2015 that the US Supreme Court recognized same-sex marriage throughout the nation. But at the end of 2008, California had just passed Proposition 8 to amend the state constitution and ban same-sex marriage. In response to the passing of Proposition 8, a grassroots movement began within the LGBTQ+ community. This movement led to the formation of many activist groups, and the NOH8 campaign is one of them. The use of the number 8 in the campaign's logo is a clear reference and pun on Proposition 8, and they managed to create one of the most successful campaigns ever, mostly because it rests at a cross-section between LGBTQ+ rights and the celebrity culture of the late 2000s.
Huge campaign, huge success, whether we like it or not today, or however we look at it today with our, 2023, 2024 eyes. What made it such a big success in your mind back in the days?
Well, I think what made it such a success was obviously the celebrity endorsements that were associated with it. But I think that it was sort of like a catalyst in a lot of ways for future social issues that require such a large amount of attention and public support. But this campaign was something that, kind of came out of nowhere as with, in conjunction with Prop 8. Yes, it's 2009. Yes, we know people are gay. Yes, the general sentiment towards, queer people and queer culture has shifted from 10 years ago.
For sure.
But it's still a big deal for somebody, especially people with a public platform, to come out and say, I support this movement. I support queer people, having the right to get married. So I think that's what kind of made it so popular, is that there was this massive splash that we hadn't really seen before.
To give you an idea, in 2009, the Kardashians were up-and-coming reality TV stars. Glee just aired its first episode, Facebook was all the rage, and we were getting our celebrity news on the Paris Hilton blog. We were slowly getting away from our parents' analog media and replacing it with online content. And NOH8 is one of the first campaigns to successfully leverage both the anger of a grassroots movement and our mainstream obsession with celebrity culture at the dawn of social media.
The way that I talk about the campaign in this video is how it's essentially kind of like the crossroad between like our parents' analog media, that, magazines and cable TV, and then our generation really going towards more online and social media. And this campaign kind of arrived at that time. You would go on Facebook, on MySpace, and you would see that campaign. We didn't have a word for an influencer campaign, but it is essentially a influencer campaign before it was even a thing.
You're totally right in that. I think that in 2009, around that time, obviously the internet and so many of the things that are still so prevalent today were sort of in their like incubation stages. And the majority of the people that were online at that time, you know, much younger, who were figuring out the technology and how to use things a lot quicker than maybe the older folks were. Because it was so new, the style, its approach, the people that were getting involved, it was almost gate-kept in a way, you know, from at least at the beginning in its inception. Because
they were talking to us.
They were talking to us on social media.
They were talking to people our age. Because if you look at like the celebrities that they chose today, the Kardashians, we take the Kardashians for granted because they're so prevalent in celebrity culture.
Yes.
Back in the days, the Kardashians were at their second season. You know, they were not the commercially successful business people that we know today. Like if you guys watched the Kardashians at the beginning, it was a show. You know, like fighting. And I would say they were probably one of the biggest faces of that campaign. Like if you type no hate in Google, that's probably who you're gonna see. But also like a ton of other reality TV stars, like the cast of Jersey Shore was, you know, featured.
we remember them and how lovely they were.
But also like I don't know if my parents really knew them.
That's true.
Like they were talking to a younger generation that was online.
The campaign was created as a form of silent protest by photographer Adam Bouska. That's why his name appears on all campaign photos, and his style of photography screams 2009. It's high exposure, very dramatic, and heavily airbrushed, as was often the case in this era. The formula was simple: a white background, a white shirt, a piece of tape, and the logo. And that formula was recreated for all celebrities. The Kardashians, Josh Hutcherson, some of the Glee cast, Ricky Martin, Lance Bass, many reality TV stars, and even adult entertainers. These celebrities were virtue signaling in some cases. There is a form of marketing transaction going on here. No Hate needs to make a splash, so celebrities offer visibility for the campaign. In exchange, No Hate offers good PR for these celebrities. Everyone's a winner.
Yes, it's activism, but it's like activism light for a celebrity. Like it's entry level in my mind, which is great because then you have a lot of celebrities that can back it up. But like this idea for a celebrity to endorse that, not to hate on people, like the photo itself is not super descriptive. Like it's not, you know, let's legalize gay marriage. It's more about like tolerance than acceptance. And that, I think, in 2009, keep in mind, we're before gay marriage is legalized in the US, like by the Supreme Court. That entry level, the ease that celebrities have at just endorsing not hating on people, I think made it a success as well.
I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and I find this super interesting is that it was about tolerance, not acceptance.
Definitely.
I mean, obviously, when it comes down to like a very real like legislative shift that had to happen, like that I think goes further into acceptance. But if you look at social issues nowadays, I think people are a lot more forward about the way that they present these issues. And so I think that what it did is it was ambiguous enough that it allowed people to say, yeah, I'm okay with, you know, it's a spectrum. It's everybody from people saying, I'm okay with gay people getting married because it doesn't affect me, and frankly, I don't care, all the way to the spectrum of people saying, I am so invested in this. This is about human rights. This is about basic access to needs and things like that.
It's kind of getting people on board with do not hate on gay people. And that is a stepping stone.
If you made it this far into the video, please consider subscribing. I cover many LGBTQ+ topics, mostly during Pride Month. You can watch last year's Pride playlist, which includes my video about the rise of anti-LGBTQ+ politics. This year for Pride Month, I have already published some videos about Harvey Milk, Love Simon, and Call Me By Your Name, all available on my channel. Also, my cousin and I are soft launching our queer-owned brand. Our products are ethically sourced and locally made. We are soft launching with our limited edition Pride neon tote, so make sure to check it out.
I think we might have said this before, but it's not exactly easy in that period of time for you to come out and to be very public about your support of this group of people that, again, albeit in 2009, everybody knows that gay people exist. Everybody knows that they want to get married, all of that good stuff. But it's still a big statement.
Yeah.
And so when you're sort of at the beginning of this campaign and people are talking about it, there is a very real potential that you don't have as much of a handle and an understanding on who your fan base is, especially in 2009, where I think a lot of the data that we have, the metrics about your user base and the people that are following you, you don't really know. So you are...
I mean, unless you're Lady Gaga or, you know, you're Madonna. You know, if you're a gay icon, you kind of know, but still, they're not on the No Hate campaign.
I was going to say, but the people who are really, really behind the community in every single sense from their start, they don't need to do that, because that was... Again, like I'll say, I think it was more genuine at the beginning, but it was, I would say, kind of like the first start of a little bit of virtue signaling.
No, it is, definitely. Right? We talk about it in the video. Yes, it is. There is a marketing transaction that's happening here. Like if you see celebrities and their public persona as a brand, there's definitely an exchange here that's happening. So there's the No Hate campaign that has objectives to achieve. You want visibility and you want reach. And there are celebrities that want good PR. Yeah. So there is a transaction, but how long they stretched the campaign, and to a point where I had no idea that the No Hate campaign was still ongoing.
Right.
Are you...
You heard that correctly. The No Hate campaign is still ongoing. If you look at their website, you can see all the upcoming open photo shoot opportunities. So if you want to step back in time and get your photo taken, check it out. They also do other activist work, which is important to say. I don't know how well their photo shoot opportunities are doing these days, but back in the day, the campaign had so much momentum that amateur photographers and student groups organized their own No Hate photo shoots. This helped the campaign gain momentum at the local level, as these photos were widely shared on social media and even used as profile pictures. The campaign also had slogans and hashtags like No Hate in my state, No Hate worldwide, and All Love No Hate.
You know what, I was surprised when I researched? I did not expect for that campaign to be recreated by users. Yeah. To me, this is like a very modern take on like a trend.
Yes.
But then I realized in doing the research that there were campuses in the US where you had students that would set up No Hate booths and then actually have like students recreate those No Hate photos that were like bootleg photos.
Yeah.
But still, like this idea that in 2009 there is a user base of people who participate in an online trend. This idea is very modern to me.
I think that the transferable nature of it feels very modern. Absolutely. Because I mean, hey, who has a white t-shirt, a white background, and I guess everybody has a Home Depot in distance to go buy a piece of duct tape.
And you know what?
Yeah.
There has to be a reason for the setup to be the way it is. So the setup is pretty easy to recreate and to travel with. I'm sure not all these photos were taken in LA. Like you can easily take your white background, your lights, and your camera. All you need then is Photoshop, and you pretty much have a way to recreate hundreds and hundreds of the same style of photos for different celebrities. It's kind of easy to mass produce.
The reach that it had and the way that it insisted on interacting with people. And I think that if we talk about marketing, that's one of the best things you can do.
By all measures, No Hate was a highly successful marketing campaign for a nonprofit. It's a time capsule that reflects the aspirations of its time and the famous faces supporting it. Perhaps it showed a whole generation of kids that it's okay to be who you are, because Pete Wentz and Ashley Simpson say so.
So the last thing I want to talk about with you is how would this campaign work today? If we were to make this campaign, keep the same message, imagine that, gay marriage didn't pass and that we're still at that stage of the No Hate campaign, but with all the ecosystem that we have today. Do you think that campaign would work? How do we make that campaign work?
Well, short answer...
No.
Is no.
If you like this video, you'll probably like my video on Harvey Milk. Click the top link for that. A major thank you to Mark for joining me on my channel and for being so patient with the release of this video. I could not have done it without you. Thank you.